All right, guys, welcome back. The purpose of this video is to illustrate how to create the three-dimensional model known as the switch bracket. This is a specific walkthrough for those of you that need some help walking through how to create this. I'm going to illustrate how to input fractional values using OnShape, having it subtract and add and discover the unknowns using the fractional values. I'm going to be setting up construction lines that it's going to help me construct this model, and I'm going to be establishing angles, which up until this specific challenge you haven't been asked to do that. I'm also going to be going through one specific method of creating this model. You know, if you are skilled in this, you might come up with a different method. But in terms of efficiency, I'm going to be making use of the front plane, the side plane, the top plane, and so forth. So at this point, I've already created a blank document. I labeled it switch bracket how to, just so that I know in my file directory that that's why this exists. So once again, if you take a look, if you right click and drag, you can see that you have your standard views and so forth. So looking at the correct isometric perspective with the front facing left, the right facing right, and so forth, we're going to create our model. And so I'm going to use a smaller screen within to kind of illustrate what we are going to do in terms of talking about. So at this point, you have this as a handout. You also have this digitally. And I want to talk about what I'm going to be doing in terms of creation of the model before I do it. So you're going to have to bear with me for this walkthrough because I'm trying to teach you what you might be having difficulty with. So looking at this model, you're going to take a look, and we're going to create the, if you want to call it the back plate, the plate that's going to be facing forward. So we're going to be creating this back section here first. What I do know, and I'm going to just kind of circle or highlight the values that are important to me at this point. So I like the 4.5. I'm going to need to know that. I know that the entire object is 2 3/8 tall. At this point, I know that my horizontal run of this back plate is going to end at 1 1/4 inches, and then at that time it's going to go down this slope, if you want to think of it as that, at 15 degrees. I also have my hole placements here. So I have my 3/4 of an inch from the right edge over, and then my 3/4 of an inch from the bottom up for my center point. And then one of the things that might be new to you is the concept of drill, as drills are, drill bits are measured by their diameter. So that's a 5/8 inch through all hole at 5/8 in diameter. So those are the things that are important to me to create this back plate, and then I'll create the other two plates if you want to think of them as plates. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is make a rectangle on my front plane with 4.5 inch width and 2 3/8 tall measurements for the rectangle. Okay, and then after that I'll be using the other values. So we'll kind of come back to this to get some information as we create. I don't want to just kind of have you not see me do that on the screen and be wondering what specifically we're doing. So at this point, I already have my front plane here. So I'm going to click sketch, and it's going to ask me which plane. I'm going to click the front. I'll stay in this kind of angled isometric view. I'm going to snap to the origin and just click and drag out a approximate rectangle. I'm going to press D on the keyboard for dimension, or we could click this tool here. And I'm going to do 2 3/8 on the side for height. So this is how you're going to enter in 2 3/8 if you don't know that decimal equivalent. You're going to do 2 plus, in parentheses, 3/8, close your parentheses. So it's going to do that division, 3/8, create that decimal value, then it's going to add it to the whole unit of 2. When I press enter, we have our 2.375, and that is 2 3/8. So now we're going to do the same thing with 4.5. I don't think I need to demonstrate 4.5 being converted to decimal, so we're just going to do 4.5, press enter, and that is our general frame for our back plate. Okay, We're going to cut back to the drawing itself so we can plan our next course of action. So once again, looking at the switch bracket, what we need to know now is how to place that line or that part of the geometry so we can kind of begin our 15 degrees. So at this point, you know that it's 1 1/4 in terms of horizontal run. So we're going to establish a construction line. The construction line is going to approximately appear down in this vertical fashion, kind of like this. And then from that point, we're going to be able to snap our line and then create a 15-degree angled slope, as you can see in the purple lines that I'm showing. So we're going to use the 1 1/4, we're going to use the 15, and then we're going to use a construction line at this point. So let's do that. So as I said, we're going to do the 1 1/4 construction line. So what you're going to do with the same sketch is you're going to just use your normal straight line. Make sure your line is perfectly vertical. Even though I'm viewing in this angled perspective, I have symbols that show me that it's perpendicular and vertical. So now I've created that line, I'm going to press escape and get out of the line tool, and I'm going to right click on the line that I just created. Make sure that it's orange when you're hovering. Right click, fourth option down from the top is construction. Once you've done that, you're going to see that your line has turned from from solid to dot dash, which indicates that it's not model geometry, it's construction geometry, things that you're going to use to make your model. We're going to use that 1 1/4 inch measurement. So we're going to grab the edge of the rectangle and then the construction line, and we're going to type in 1 1/4, 1.25, press enter. And now we know that this 1 1/4 inch horizontal is what's going to remain. We need to snap a 15-degree angle off of that point. So you're going to use the line tool again. You could also press L. You'll start to use shortcuts more often than not moving forward with experience. And we're just going to snap to the edge of this sketch. We are not going to snap to the middle. If you snap to the middle, it'll never come off. So we just want some random side of this sketch. Doesn't matter where. You're going to let it go. Then you're going to press D for dimension, and you're going to click those two lines, the horizontal and then the angled, and then drop a measurement. And then the measurement that we want is 15 degrees. Press enter, and now we have our 15 degree. As you can see, the back plate is starting to form. We now need to trim. And so we're going to press M as in Mary, or the last letter of the word trim, or you can click the scissor icon here. And then if you hover over various geometry, you'll see that it turns orange at intersection, right? If I hover my mouse over the orange line that you see here, the entire vertical line is not orange, just where the intersection takes place between the top and the bottom of that line segment. So if I click, that line literally goes away. Okay. If you also notice, my vertical 2 3/8 went away as well. We're going to have to reestablish that on the other side just so that we can keep it. So if I click this, that also goes away. Same thing, my width measurements went away. You're going to notice that these lines are blue because they're undefined at this point. Honestly, we could probably get by without doing this, but just for practice sake, we're going to make sure that we dimension these. So we don't have to change the values. It's still 4.5. And we're still going to do the 2 3/8. So we're going to click the top and the bottom horizontal lines and put that here and press enter. If you notice, my lines that were blue now have turned black because everything is fully defined with this sketch. The only thing that we're missing now is the hole. So we're going to cut back to the drawing just so we can analyze the numbers. And you can see, once again, the purpose of this video is to walk you through step by step absolutely everything. If you didn't need this video, you may have already created this switch bracket using my small situational videos in the previous post. So once again, we're going to focus on this area. Okay, as I've already pointed out, we have our, if we want to call this our X position, and then our Y position, which will give us the intersect of where those go, where we're going to draw the circle in from the center out. And then we're going to focus on the 5/8 measurement for the diameter of the circle. And at that point, we are ready to extrude, add material, the 7/16 for the thickness of this part, the depth of this part. So let's cut back to the model making and let's do that. Okay. I'm sorry, didn't mean to do that. Let's pull this back up. I have 3 screens that I'm juggling, so sometimes my cursor plays games on me and I think I'm in the wrong screen and I'm not. Alright, so let's create that circle. So we're over here on OnShape at this point, and we're going to use that information we just talked about, and we're going to create a circle from the center point, some location. It's obviously not in the right location, it's not the right size. So holes and circles typically need 3 measurements, the X and the Y, if you want to think of it as that, and then also the diameter. So we're going to do the X first. We're going to click the edge of the part and the center of the circle. Unlike SolidWorks, you click the edge. With OnShape, you click the center to position from the center. To me, it makes a little bit more sense. 0.75, or you could have done 3/4. I'm going to click the center, and we're going to do the bottom horizontal line, which will give us our Y. All right, I'm going to do 3/4 just to kind of demonstrate how we can put fractional values in as well. Press enter, calculates it. The only thing we're missing now is the size of the hole or the circle. So click the edge of the circle at this point, not the center. Drop your measurement. That happens to be whatever it was when you dragged, and at this point it is 5/8 or 0.625. And at this point we have our hole placed, we have our angle, we have our construction lines established. We just need to extrude it that 7/16. So at this point I'm going to say okay. We have our sketch. All right. So we're going to click sketch 1 and we're going to click extrude. And then we're going to, in the depth measurement, we're going to specify 7/16. Press enter, enter, and the back plate of this part has been created. So we're going to tackle the other 2 sides at this point, the right side or the right facing side, and then the, I guess, upward facing surface or side as well. So honestly, it doesn't matter which one you do before the other. So we're going to pick, I think, the right face. So let's go over to the handout and analyze what it is we're going to be doing. So as I said, we're going to focus on the right facing side. So this is facing right, it's facing this direction. Okay, so we are going to look at the depth of the whole thing. Okay, it's 1 3/4. That includes the 7/16 here. So we're going to have to do a subtraction process, and we're going to do that with OnShape. It's going to calculate it for us. We know we have to snap a 30-degree line. At that point, it's a rectangle, so it is 2 inches tall. And at 7/8, the vertical surface is going to go to an angled surface at 30 degrees. So we're going to need a construction line here on our sketch. So just like before, we can snap our 30-degree angle just like this, right? And then ultimately, when we're finished, when we made our sketch and we've trimmed everything, we need to extrude it towards the right side at 7/16. So let's do that. Okay, let's make that sketch, let's draw that construction line, and let's make that angle and extrude it. Okay, so over here on the right, I'm sorry, the right plane is the surface that we're going to be creating it on. Okay, our sketch is going to be created there. So I'm not going to click this part, this model or anything when it comes to establishing a sketch. I'm just going to click sketch, and I'm going to click the right plane. And at that moment, we can snap the geometry that's intersecting the right plane. So we're going to take our rectangle tool, and we're going to go from the corner here, the way I have it rotated, and we're just going to make a general rectangle, right? As you can right click and rotate, you can see it's approximate, right? So let's dimension it. We know that it's 2 inches tall, so we're going to press D on the keyboard. We're then going to click the edge of the height length, right? The height line of this rectangle, and we're going to put in 2 inches. That's a known, and we get that. So at this point, we have 1 3/4 of an inch in terms of total depth of this part, but we've already used 7/16 of that depth. So this measurement, I cannot put in 1 3/4 of an inch because that's not the complete measurement that I need. So I'm going to leave that value just as is, and I want to make sure you fully understand what it is we're actually doing when it comes to calculating these numbers. Once again, this is the purpose of this video, is to walk you through step by step everything that we are doing when it comes to making this model. So moving forward, once again, I pointed out that the 7/16 has already been used. That is a part of this measurement. So we need to subtract 7/16 from the 1 3/4 inch measurement. Okay, so that's what we're going to do, and then we'll know how to dimension our rectangle, right? The rectangle that we're drawing right now is in essence sticking out this distance. We need to know what that distance is. Right now it's unknown. Okay, so we're dealing with the unknown using measurements we do know. All right, and then we're going to be putting in fractional values to get OnShape to calculate these for us. So let's go back now that you know what we're doing. We're going to double click. We're going to enter in our 1 plus, in parentheses, 3/4. Okay, if we were just going to put 1 3/4 or 1.75, we could have done it this way. Now we're going to subtract, parentheses, 7/1/6. Close your parentheses. So at this point, we have an expression line that should work. I would like to wrap all of this together, so add one more parentheses on one side and add it to the other. So now it's just one encapsulated expression. If I press enter, I have my value at this point, and that's exactly what we should get. If I were to double click it, you would actually see the fractional information that you put. Okay. So at this moment, we have most of what we need. We know we need to use 30 degree and then the 7/8. The 7/8, once again, is the construction line that represents where that 30 degree line happens. So you're going to create a horizontal line, just like I showed you. We're not going to snap to the middle. We're going to press D. We're going to grab the line and the bottom part of the rectangle, and you're going to put in 7/8. Now it's not a construction line yet, so we're going to press escape to get out of any tool that we are using currently. Right click on that horizontal line and scroll down to the fourth option down where it says construction. You'll know that you did it because you'll have the dot dash line. And then at that moment, we're going to press L on the keyboard for line, or you can click the tool. And we're just going to click at that intersection, and then somewhere along the edge of this top rectangle, not to the center. If you snap to the center, you're going to create problems for yourself. So somewhere where you're not snapping to any point, but you are on the edge. At that location, we're going to press D on the keyboard for dimension. We're going to click that angled line and click the vertical line, and then drop in a value, which happens to be 30. So at this point, our 30 degree line is established, right? It intersects exactly where it needs to be. We need to trim a portion of the triangle. So we're going to press M for trim, which is right here, right? And then we're going to hover over the line segment we want to delete, and then click the other line segment we want to delete. And at this point, as you can see, the blue lines just showed up. That's because the total depth measurement of this sketch is now no longer present. So we're going to press D on the keyboard, and we're going to click this vertical line, and then we're going to just snap to that point, and we're going to put that value back. At this point, if you double click, you will see that the fractional information is missing because that's the actual decimal value we did not input. But that's the result of us doing that initial expression line. So this one is done. We need to extrude that just the same thickness of all the plates on this part. It's 7/16. So we're going to extrude this 7/16. So we're going to say OK. Click Sketch 2, extrude 7/16. I like to press Tab on the keyboard to kind of see that the preview will take place the way I expect it to. And that's 7/16. Right? Press Enter. we've confirmed that. So we are almost done. We just now need to draw the missing triangle that's inside here. So let's analyze the numbers and take a look at that so we can understand where we're going from this point. So looking at the switch bracket diagram, the dimensioned information, once again we are going to create the triangle here. So what is it we are going to need to know? Well, at this point, from the back end of the plate we just created to where the triangle starts, it's 7/16. All right, we already know that that's the plate thickness. We might need to know that. We also have the 2.5 inch measurement, which is pretty much how wide this part feature goes, minus the 7/16 that we have to probably remove. We know that this is 7/16. And at that point, we don't need an angle, because what we do have is we will be able to establish this, and then we'll be able to establish this point. Right? So between those 2 points, then we can just snap a line that creates that angle. And since we already have this right angle corner, we don't need to really do too much. This is an easier part. So let's go and do that just now, and then we'll be done with the walkthrough. All right, we are about 21 minutes into this. I apologize how long this is, but once again, this is for your problems that you might be having running forward. So we're going to create a sketch at this point on the top plane, right? Because that's where that part sits. And now at that moment, I'm going to take a rectangle and I'm going to snap to the inside corner and just drag it out to a certain point. Actually, I'm going to undo that. Hit Control Z. Let's try something a little bit easier. We're going to grab a rectangle. We're going to snap to this point because it's already there and we know we need to be there. So this might even be easier than I think. Then we're going to snap to this edge, not the center. Okay, that would be the center. We don't want to snap to that. So somewhere that's not the center, but I've snapped to the edges. At this point, I'm going to press D for my dimension tool, and I'm going to click this point that includes the 7/16, so we shouldn't even have to subtract, and then this point. And at that location, we should be able to do 2.5, which brings out that measurement to exactly where it needs to go. I don't even need to worry about the depth measurement at this point. I have the 2 points that I need to know to establish a diagonal, and that would be with your line tool, press L. You want to snap to these 2 points. At that moment, we're going to press M for trim. We're going to delete this line and this line. We're also going to press D, and we're going to reestablish this horizontal measurement of 2.5. As you can see, it went from blue back to black. It's fully defined, and we are ready to extrude it to 7/16 up in height. So we're going to say OK with the sketch. As you can see, it's done. We're going to click Sketch 3. We're going to click Extrude, and we're going to type in 7/16. Press Tab on the keyboard to make sure we're looking at what we want. Say OK, and then this part is done. If you don't like looking at these planes, you can click the eyes. So now they're gone. I like to keep the planes on when you're constructing. But that's how you create the switch bracket. So if you've accomplished this with me, congratulations. Hopefully you've learned something, and you won't maybe need to use these detailed walkthroughs moving forward. Trying to get you to think for yourself, problem solve, and use the information that you have available to you is really important. And once again, I hope that this provided some clarity and cleared some things up that you were struggling with. I apologize for my phone that keeps vibrating every time I get a notification. Anyway, until next time, have a wonderful day, and I hope this worked out for you.